Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. My next guest is my good friend, Mr. Bryan Baugh. Bryan, thanks for joining us again, man. Second time on this show. Super happy to have you. The last time you were on,
Thanks.
we were talking about the first few issues of Wulf and Batsy. We had a blast talking about it. And you and I were talking before this, man. 1999, this thing was created. We're hitting 25 years that Wulf and Batsy's been out in the open, pleasing fans, man. That's crazy.
It's an obsession, I guess.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I think anybody who is able to keep their creation alive for as long as you have deserves at least a handshake, man, and a tip to the hat. That's pretty impressive. But man, I wanted to talk to you today because one, we have a Fund My Comic that is going on. So I thought we'd start with that. We could talk a little bit about the story and then come back to that at the end. But
Sure.
and congratulations, man! You've surpassed your goal, and you still got, I think, what 15, 16 days to go.
Yeah, something like that. I'm pulling it up right now
Are
on
you?
my end.
Yeah, I got it up
Yeah,
here on my phone, but yeah,
yeah.
16 days to go. You're at 206%. But
Hmm.
boy, I feel like there's a lot of room to still grow this thing toward the end, and hopefully fund the next three after this.
Oh, that'd be really fun.
That'd be amazing, huh? So can
Yeah, I
you kind of
definitely have
talk?
stories and plans beyond this. So
Do you?
yeah.
So how many stories do you have already created, Bryan?
Oh, that's difficult to answer. So okay, so again, I created it in 1999. Uh, when I first started self-publishing, I did 4 trade paperbacks. Between I think I started self-publishing those in 2008,
Okay.
and and then I kept doing them all the way through 2017. That's when the last one came out. And each of those trade paperbacks was about 250 pages average. Yeah, so the first trade paperback contained 2 stories. The second one contained one long story, and then uh, volumes 3 and 4 of the trade paperbacks went together as one big giant 2-part story. So then when it went to the ongoing series, I basically started reprinting those early uh, stories from the beginning, so it would go in order. And the first 6 issues of the ongoing series is the first trade paperback. And then I created some new stories starting with issue 7.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's what I'm doing now is creating new stories. And eventually I will get back to reprinting the trade paperbacks. But I'm doing some new stories that actually fit in between the timeline.
That's so cool.
So how many is that? I don't even know. It's just a lot. And eventually I'll hopefully get it all reprinted and printed and released through this ongoing series. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, I know. I was right in front of me. You can't see, but I have all my omnibuses, and I figure if you have, 1,200 pages worth of Wolf and Batsy stories, you're pretty close to having quite a thick book of Wolf and Batsy. That's impressive, man.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, eventually I would like to do some new editions of the trade paperbacks
Yeah.
because when I reprinted those early stories for the ongoing series, I did make some art revisions and I redid all the lettering, which led to some rewriting of some of the dialogue just to improve it because some of that stuff was 20 years old. So there were, I mean, I'm not really one of those people who's embarrassed of my old art. I kind of like seeing the evolution of an artist over the course of a series, and and I figure if it was okay with me then, it should be okay with me now. It's my old stuff, it's the early stuff, fine. But there were some spots in there where it was just like, okay, I didn't even like that drawing back then. I'm not going to let that thing get reprinted again. So I did redraw a few things just to punch it up and polish it a little bit. So the ongoing series is really the most up to date version right now, and it's going to keep coming out, and we'll reprint all that old stuff hopefully, and along with new stories in between, and eventually I will probably do new trade paperbacks with these new versions.
That would be a lot of fun.
I think that would be the way to go.
Yeah. So as far as how you're publishing now, do you have your own publishing kind of name that you're publishing under?
Yes. It's called Bloody Weirdo Comics.
I love it, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was trying to come up with a good publisher name, and I remembered this illustration that I did back in the 2000s. It was just a random drawing that I did of some zombies, but when I went to color it, the drawing was just rotted zombies, but when I went to color it, I just painted blood all over them. And the title of the drawing I just threw down spontaneously was The Bloody Weirdos. And I thought that just made me laugh. I thought that sounded like the name of a bad 80s horror movie. So I thought that was a good name. And then for the logo, I was actually digging around in my parents' basement looking for stuff, and I
Uh,
found this box that on the side of it in my mom's handwriting it said Brian's kindergarten drawings, and there was a stack of drawings in there from when I was like a real little boy, like 5 or 6 years old. Drawings I haven't seen, drawings that I haven't laid my eyes on since probably like 1978. So I was going through those and I found a bunch of drawings I did of the monsters, the Universal monsters that I watched on TV with my dad. And there was one drawing in there I just loved of a wolf man drawn when I was like 5. So that became the logo for Bloody Weirdo Comics.
that is awesome.
And now you will see him on the you will when these issues come out, you will see him right there
That's
in
so
the
cool, man.
top.
I love it. Now, when you were going through that box of old art, did you see art that you could look at today and say, "Oh, that was Batsy or that was Wolf at the time," or not? Nothing even close to that.
No, not these specific characters.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I was saying, as a little boy, when I was a little boy, my dad would watch the Universal monster movies on TV, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, King Kong, all that stuff, and then I would watch it with him. So of course, I fell in love with the monsters at an early age, and then that was what some of my drawings were of.
Yeah.
Was Frank? There's a Frankenstein drawing in there. There's a drawing of a big gorilla. There's a bunch of drawings of the Wolfman. He was obviously my favorite.
Yeah.
So the love of the monsters was there from the beginning, and certainly, especially a love for the Wolfman. Um, yeah, so it's always been in my DNA.
Yeah, I would think so. Sitting there watching movies with your dad, and then all these years later, looking at your comic book, you could see that they had quite the impression imprinted on you at a young age, huh?
Yeah, and that's like the inspiration for putting the childhood drawing of the Wolfman in the logo for the new comic book company. It's like this is my way of saying these are all my childish obsessions. This is like the grown-up equivalent of playing with action figures. That's all
Exactly.
I'm doing here, having fun with monsters.
I love it, man. I love it.
There's
I think
nothing serious. There's no political anything. It's just monsters.
it is, man. It's such a fun story too, as they travel around trying to find a home, but always kind of screwing up a good thing
Yeah,
without trying, right? But all of a sudden they get a little hungry, and then oh, they got to move on to the next town because they left a trail of blood, right?
yeah, yeah. Either Wolf has to eat someone,
Yeah,
or or they will meet a sympathetic human
yeah.
that they actually like and don't want to kill, or they'll meet sympathetic monsters that they become friends with who have a problem. And Batsy is the little people pleaser, the little goody two shoes. She gets a little bit of that from my wife, where it's like she always wants to help everybody. She's always got to take care of everyone, even though she's a vampire. And Wolf is the selfish introvert who's like, let's just mind our own business, because that always gets them into trouble. But sure enough, that's what gets them entangled in other people's messes or other monsters' messes, and leads to most of their big adventures.
Man. It's so fun to read, man. I absolutely enjoy it. I absolutely enjoy it. Can you kind of walk through what we could expect in issues 10 through 12 that is part of the Fund My Comic right now? Yeah.
Okay, so um, the story in the issues coming out on the crowdfunding campaign. Um, I was working on a story in issues 8 and 9 called The Fall of the House of Zagzog, in which Wolf and Batsy, who have always been looking for a home, actually find a home because they conquered one of their arch enemies and took over his house. And now that's their place. But in the process of that adventure, there was an innocent human who got killed along the way in the crossfire. And so what happens is, just when Wolf and Batsy are settling in and getting comfortable, that person's loved ones and investigators come looking
Ah, yeah, yeah,
for them because, as far as they know, it's a missing person case.
yeah,
So that puts Wulf and Batsy's back up, and they're like, we got to defend our home.
yeah.
And that's what the new stories are about. This is issue 10, which is on the crowdfunding campaign. And this is issue 11
Oh,
on the crowdfunding
covers are
campaign.
amazing.
Oh, thanks. And there will also be an issue 12. These two issues will wrap up the Fall of the House of Zagzag story arc. And you'll find out what happens to their new home
Yeah.
and the unfortunate people who barged in. And and then issue 12 is an anthology issue that collects some of the old early stories that I did, like short stories that I did in 2004 and 2005.
That is so cool, man. I love it. I love it. And what a great segue into the rest of it too. Man, the covers are awesome, man. The detail on your art, Bryan, is so incredible.
Oh man, thanks.
Yeah, I love it. Got a lot of
Oh,
practice drawing those two.
yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
the back covers is the same as the front, just without the trade dress.
that is so cool, man. Well, how exciting is that, man? So you got we got 10 through 12. Have you already started writing 13 and on? Are you already thinking about that, or did you put it on hold? You just want to get through this first?
Yes, issue 13 is more than halfway done.
Oh, wow.
It that one, I figured issue 13 for a horror series is a landmark
Yeah.
because of the association that the number 13 has always had with horror. So
Yeah.
that issue is a double-sized 64-page bad luck extravaganza. In fact, you probably shouldn't even support it or back it or buy it or anything because it's bad luck. A lot of bad stuff happens in that issue.
Yeah.
But it's a single contained story, and that'll probably be the focus of my next campaign after this one.
Yeah, that makes sense. I almost thought maybe you would skip 13 and go right to 14 like on an elevator.
No, I wouldn't miss it.
No, it would have been for the world, man. So when do you think that crowdfunding will start?
I'm not sure yet. This campaign is my first time doing one of these on my own.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of an experimental
Yeah.
aspect to this whole thing. I'm sort of taking it one day at a time and figuring out how to do it right. And so I'm playing it by ear. You know, I'm just sort of seeing what happens. And clearly this one was successful enough that it tells me I should do another one.
Yes.
But this one was the learning curve. There were certain things I did on this one that I will repeat, and there are certain things that I will change or adjust. But you know, after it ends here, it ends on April 3rd, and then I'll have to do fulfillment. Well, I'll have to get the books printed, and then do fulfillment, of course, and shouldn't be too bad. I've already printed up an early batch of issues 10 and 11 just because I wanted to test out my new printer and make sure it was good, which it is, and I'm real happy with it. So I'll
Nice.
just have to get a few more made. I'll have to get issue 12 printed. But that doesn't take very long, just a few weeks to get those back. And yeah, and then fulfillment. So once that's out of the way, I'll look at how the land lays and I'll plan from there. But yeah, I feel very encouraged, and I'm loving the story for issue 13, and I'm dying to get that one out to people too. So
That'll be a lot of fun, man. 13,
yeah.
like it's going to be fun. That's so cool, Bryan. So when you're like, so you, like most independent creators, right? We all have day jobs and we're doing this kind of as our passion outside of that. How do you make time for yourself to where it's just Wulf and Batsy? And do you find yourself like a little bit every day, or are you just trying to find time whenever you can?
um, well, what I try to do is, excuse me, what I try to do is 10 to midnight.
Okay.
Those are my drawing hours.
Yeah.
If I can do stuff during the day, great. If I can squeeze in some time on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, great. But you know, I also have a 6-year-old daughter, so my weekends are no longer my own. So So I try to do just a consistent schedule of 10 to midnight every night if I possibly can, because that's the one time of the week when nobody needs me.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
kids in bed, the wife's cleaning up the place and getting ready to go to bed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I got those 2 hours that I can crank on my book.
Yeah. Now, Brian, have you started your 6-year-old off the way your father started you off with some of these movies, the old movies, and
Mhm.
watching them with her and getting her into it?
Oh yes. I am a monster movie watcher all the
Yeah.
time, every day anyway. So I've always got something on. And my little girl will get interested and she'll get curious. What's daddy doing? What's that on TV? And she'll have to come see. Uh, and I have to tell you, I am really fascinated by the psychology of what makes a little kid decide their favorite monster.
Mm,
Because I don't remember a time when when I decided that the Wolf Man was my favorite. He just
right.
always was my favorite. And the same thing seems to be happening to my little girl, but with the mummy.
Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
When she was like 4, I started showing her Scooby Doo cartoons, the old ones.
Oh,
And her
yeah.
favorite episode, yeah, her favorite episode was the one with the mummy. I don't know why. No explanation why, just it was. And then she remembered that. And then like when I'd be watching the black and white monster movies, if it was a mummy movie, she'd come sit down and point and go, "Oh, the mummy, daddy, the mummy," you know. And
Yeah.
she drew little pictures of him and stuff. And yeah, so I don't know how that happens or what, but I'm fascinated by that. What makes a kid choose their favorite monster from such an early age? It's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. No, it'd be really interesting to find out the reasons behind that. Um, and you got to figure out how to put that into your story too.
Oh yes, yeah,
It sounds like you need a mummy that's more an everyday character in Wolf and Batsy as well.
yeah. You know, it's funny. It's a really weird thing, actually. For a long, long, long time, going all the way back to like the early days of Wolf and Batsy, when I first started putting the comics out, and I first started having some readers. That was a question that I got from a few different people. Like, you should do a mummy story, Wolf and Batsy meet the mummy. And I never had a good idea for how that should work, but I did draw a few pictures of it, but I never came up with a good story for that. And then not that long ago, it did hit me. I came up with an angle that I think might actually work.
Nice.
So there might be a Wolf and Batsy meet the mummy story
I think
somewhere down the road.
that has to happen with your little girl. Enjoy. And then wait till she gets old enough to realize that you took her love and passion and put it in your comic book. That'd be amazing. That's
Yeah.
cool, man. That is so cool. So, as far as kind of you had mentioned that you had the 4 trades that you started with. 1 through 6 is trade one. You had these new
Mhm.
stories. After 13 is the idea to go back to like trade 2 or 3 and start to
Yeah.
incorporate some of those. Yeah.
I really want to do that because again, it's like the Wolf and Batsy readership is sort of divided between the people who were following it
Yeah.
all the way up until it became the ongoing series, and the new people who came along and joined in when it became the ongoing series. And a lot of those older past readers, a lot of them have told me that the volume 2 trade paperback is their favorite Wolf and Batsy story
Really?
ever. Yeah, it seems to be a fan favorite. Um, and it is a story that I'm proud of. It's one that I drew it between I think 2005 and 2000. No, it was like 2006 to 2009.
Okay.
I drew it. It was like a 250-page story, I think, and it was a really interesting one that a lot of people really responded to. And there's even one character that was introduced in that story that I've never used again. And I've gotten so many emails from people that said, "Would you bring that character back? We'd love to see more of that character." And so it has some fan favorite things in it, I guess. And so yeah, so if everything goes according to plan, I'm thinking maybe issue 14 or 15, I would start doing that
Okay.
story in the ongoing in a
Yeah.
new revised edition. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it weird that you started in 1999? You didn't publish until what, 2008 was your first trade that was published? Does that sound right?
Well, Well, I mean, I started the comic the way a lot of indie creators started comics back then,
Uh-huh.
which was again, that's before the internet was really, I mean, the internet was around, but we didn't have the crowdfunding. We didn't have, I don't even think print on demand had really started when I first started. So it was still kind of that old idea of you make an indie comic, you make Xeroxes of it, you take it to the comic book convention, you show it to publishers, and you hope someone picks it up. So I was still kind of operating in that mindset. And in 2004, 2005, I mean, I like I said, I started in 99, worked on it very gradually. I had to take a big long break in the middle of that when 9/11 happened because you remember how it knocked a dent in the American economy and jobs downsized, and I lost my job for a while. And so then
Yeah.
I had to put Wolf and Batsy on the shelf. And then I met the girl that I eventually married, and she was my new girlfriend. And like that was a big distraction. And so there were a few years there where I had to take a break from it. It wasn't practical to be working on a comic book when I didn't have my regular job and all these other concerns.
Yeah.
So it got broken up a lot in there. But but when I finally got back to it and finished that first batch of material, it was probably about 2004, 2005. And I was still in that mindset of let's take it to conventions and get it picked up by a publisher. And at first, it was picked up by Chanting Monks Press,
Mm.
a little company that just put out a few issues of it. And then they stopped, they took a break or whatever. They were, it was a tough time for indie publishers, I think. And then it was right after that that I became friends with Josh Howard, who
Mm.
does T-Bird and Throttle and Dead at 17.
Yeah.
He and I became really good friends, and he was already working with Viper Press.
Oh.
Or is it Viper Comics or Viper Press? I forget. But Viper, he was already working with Viper. And he was already working with Viper Comics. So he said, let's get Wolf and Batsy in there. And so I said, okay, let's try that. And I met the guys who ran Viper, and one of them liked it and one of them didn't. It was not an easy sell.
Yeah.
But I did pitch in and do some illustration on some of their other projects,
Hmm.
and they liked my work. And then they finally said, okay, fine, let's take a chance on this. And they put out a few issues of Wolf and Batsy. And then 2008 was when we had another big financial crash in the economy. And Viper said, we need to take a break. We need to take a hiatus, freeze everything. It wasn't just my book, it was all of them across the line. They just needed to take a break and kind of regather
Hmm.
before they could come back. And but I'd had a few issues of Wolf and Batsy come out, and I started getting emails from readers saying, when's the next one coming out? And so there was this pressure and this interest out there in more Wolf and Batsy. So I wrote to the guys who ran Viper and I said, would you guys be okay if I just self-published a little bit until you guys are back on your feet and ready to, and we'll always be friends and it's still cool and everything. But,
Yeah.
I got people who want more of this. Can I? And they were totally cool with that. They were like, you know what? Gave it their blessing. I said, go ahead and do that. And so I did. I put out my first trade paperback, volume 1, in 2008. And people ordered it. It sold pretty good. And the profits from that paid for the next batch of orders. And it sort of, the books started paying for themselves.
Yeah.
And so that just seemed to be the way to go. And so I ended up putting out 4 trade paperbacks between 2008 2017. And then our baby was born. And that's when I said, okay, I need to take a break again. Took a few years off, and then that's when the opportunity came up for it to become an ongoing series.
Yeah, yeah, it's so cool, man. Is it weird that you've been doing this for a while and you do have like two different groups of fans, right? You have the fans that got that first trade, and then you have these new
Yeah.
ones that came in maybe over the last few years. Uh,
Yes.
is it kind of surreal to have these fans that have been around for so long still demanding more of it? I mean, that's got to be a
Yeah.
thing.
It's really cool. It's cool and it's confusing because I get emails all the time where people are asking, well, wait a minute, which issues of the ongoing series are reprinting what, and do I need to buy all the trade paperbacks to get the whole story, I always have to like kind of write this boilerplate explanation to try to clarify that it's really not that hard to follow the whole story if you want to just get them all. But but people are worried about buying the same material twice, I guess, or whatever, which I understand. Um, but again, the ongoing series is a revised edition, so you're not really buying the same thing twice if you buy the trade paperbacks. But um, but yeah, people do have those questions, and I'm always just like, sorry, it's just the way life worked out. It wasn't my plan for it to go that way, but yeah. So there are sort of these two like alternate timelines of the releases of things,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it seems to be working out, and you seem to have garnered a pretty good following. And we can see that right now as far as Fund My Comic goes. You're doing pretty good, Bryan. I mean, that's pretty impressive. 16 days to go, so there's plenty of time for anybody who's listening who hasn't jumped in yet. They have all the other issues, and they want to continue their collection of this story, but they could jump in right now. Still plenty of time, and I'm super excited to hear this double size issue 13, and then
Hmm.
going back to that second trade with 14 and on. Are you going to
Yeah.
have to do some new art in 14 and on like you did for that first trade, or are you pretty happy with that second trade?
I'm much more happy with that one than I was with the earlier material. But there might be things in there that I go in there and revise. And there might be, there are certain story ideas I had that ended up being kind of like deleted scenes that might be fun to go back and squeeze in and embellish the story a little bit. I might do that. I haven't really taken the time to really go over that material again. It's been a little while since I looked at it, so I need to refresh my memory on it too. Um, uh, but there's fun to be had there. Where it might be open to that opportunity for me to go in there and play with those toys again and
Yeah.
maybe add a little more to the story. So I might.
Yeah, why not, right? I mean, you saw Zack Snyder with his Justice League, and now with Rebel Moon. He says there's 3 hour part one and a 3 hour part two, which is kind of a Snyder cut. We could call it the Bach
Right, right, right.
Fancy, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's fun. I mean, because there's certain ideas that I had that didn't quite fit into the page length limits or whatever, and you know, if I stretch it out and put it out through an ongoing series, it might be a chance to put some of those old unused ideas back in. Also, it would give people who have read that story before something new,
Yeah.
a new version of it, a new expanded version of it that might might be fun for people who've already read it once.
Yeah, yeah. No, it probably would be, I would think. I would think.
Yeah.
Now, when you're writing Batsy and Wolf, you already kind of made a comment that your wife likes to please people just like Batsy. Does that mean you're more like Wolf?
Not as dramatically,
Not as
but
dramatic, but is
in
there
in a
any similarities that if we
in a
read
quieter
your comic, we'll know more about you?
in a quieter way, I probably am a little bit more like him as far as let's just mind our own business.
Yeah. I think I'm more like you too, Brian. I can see a little wolf in me as well, man. I just need to eat and we just need to live in peace, man. I don't need all this other stuff going on, right?
Right.
He's like in everybody's business, right? Trying to make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'll admit this. That is another aspect of making the comics that is part of the fun and part of the motivation to keep doing it over the years was that to some degree it's therapy,
Yeah.
you know. All those little weird things in life that kind of drive you crazy or things from your past that you never worked out of your system or whatever. I find ways of kind of taking those little things and kind of distorting them completely with horror imagery and but working them out, and there's something satisfying about that, I was describing it to someone before as almost like pancakes with way too much syrup. It's like the autobiography is the pancakes, but I pour on so much syrup of horror and monsters and fantasy and imagination that you would never even be able to taste it.
That was awesome. That was a
So
great
it gets
analogy, man.
I deal with all my weird psychological hangups and all that stuff without bogging this thing down in it.
I guess we all kind of have some sort of an avenue where we do that, right? Yours just happens to be
Yeah,
books, right?
right. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Now, Brian, if someone's hearing this for the first time and they haven't experienced Wolf and Batsy, what is the best way to one, find your comic and to jump right in? Like, where can they go to get them?
Well, the crowdfunding campaign is on Fund My Comic.
Yep.
Um, there are different reward levels on there. One of the reward levels is for the three new issues,
Mhm.
10, 11, and 12. And there's digital and print options on that. There's also a reward level where you can get the entire series,
Nice.
all 12 issues, basically, in digital or print.
Yeah.
Um, or you can go to my website. I have a personal website, which is just my name, bryanbaugh.net. Just my name, all as one word, no spaces in between, all lowercase, bryanbaugh.net. And there's a store page on there where
Nice.
I have the first 9 issues up to the where the crowdfunding campaign begins. And you can, so if you want to order the issues individually,
Mhm.
and I do sign them.
Yeah, I love that about it too. In fact, you should do it on the inside though, on that first page. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it, man. I love it, Ryan. And then and then as far as following you on social media, people want to keep up to date with everything that you're doing. It's just first and last name together, right? In most places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I have a YouTube channel called Bryan Baugh Art.
that's right. Yeah.
And that's kind of fun because I do these videos that I call issue commentaries, where I literally go through my own issues, almost like a DVD commentary. I go through it page by page and I kind of explain what was going on in my head as I was creating it, which
Love
especially is kind of fun for the early issues when I was like, 25, 26 years old, and I was like really young and single and frustrated and angsty and all that good stuff. And I give away a lot of the Easter eggs in case you missed them, as far as little nods to different horror movies or things like that in there. I also have drawing videos on there too. Um, so there's a lot to look at on my YouTube channel. And then I'm on Twitter, which is just my name, Bryan Baugh, uh, at Bryan Baugh, I think. I was on there early enough that I didn't have to add a bunch of numbers at the end or anything like that. And then I'm on Instagram also. I think that one is Bryan Baugh Art also.
Yeah, I think it's Bryan Baugh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, anybody listening, definitely make sure you follow Brian. I love your content. You always give us a little sneak peek of panels and stuff like that too, which is a lot of fun. And
Yeah.
then the website is awesome. Because I'm missing, I think, 7, 8, and 9, which I need to pick up, Brian. Because I did the fund my comics, so I'm getting 10, 11, and 12. I just got to get 7, 8, and 9. And it'll
Right.
bother me if I get those before I have 7, 8, and 9.
Right. Right. Of course. You're a collector.
Yeah. So I got to make sure I pick those up. But man, Brian, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. You're always welcome, man. Anytime you want to come on, I can't wait
Thanks.
for 13.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I hope I can get that out before too long.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Fulfillment, I don't think will be too bad. This is not a huge campaign. This is a reasonable, decent sized campaign. So I don't think I'll be swamped. I think it'll be okay. I've got a lot of it prepped already. So yeah. So, but once I get through that, I'm gonna probably be really excited to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, doing fulfillment on your own is not fun, man. I mean, you super appreciate everyone who backed it, but when you're doing like 80, 90, 100 boxes and oh my goodness, man, that's a lot of work. Hopefully your
Yeah.
wife likes packing boxes because you might need help.
I'm such a control freak. I probably wouldn't even let her. I'd probably do it all myself, but I might get desperate toward the end. You never know.
You never know. You never know, man. Well, Brian, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for stopping by. Always love catching up with you, man. You're an awesome artist and an incredible
Oh,
creator. And congratulations on 25 years of Wolf and Batsy. That is just crazy. Whenever
that
I'm
is
able to
crazy.
meet an independent creator who has created something with a passion and has been able to stick to it, even if there are little life breaks in between, which I think we all would have if we had 25 years running of the same comic book. But that's super impressive in this day and age. So congratulations on that, man.
Like I said, I don't know if it's impressive. It's just an obsession that I couldn't stop doing. I didn't know what else to
Pretty
do with all
impressive.
my time.
I think it's pretty impressive, Brian. That's incredible. That's
I
incredible.
have to get the monsters out.
Well, I can't wait to see some of the new monsters, and I think you owe your daughter a mummy for sure coming up soon.
Yeah, you're right. I do.
She'll she'll get a kick out of that when you show her. Yeah, that'll be
Yeah.
man. Those are memories, yeah, that'll be ingrained in you for the rest of your life. 16 days to go. Get over to Fund My Comic. I'll make sure I put down a very simple link for people to follow. We'll blast it all over social media. Let's continue to push Wulf and Batsy, and hopefully we get fund 13, 14, and on with this current Fund My Comic. I think that would be amazing.
Oh, that would be amazing. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of
It's been
course.
great.